Hey, do you want to talk about a man who has dreamy blue eyes, beautiful hair, and a smile that'll melt your heart? Well, I do too. So let's talk about Robert Redford. That man is just ridiculously gorgeous. Like, how is he that attractive? More specifically, I'm going to talk about three of his films, and their titles are The Chase, All the President's Men, and Out of Africa. First up is The Chase. This is a 1966 movie starring Marlon Brando and Jane Fonda, and of course Robert Redford, his third build. I thought it was going to more so focus on those three characters, but it's honestly way more of an ensemble piece. Like, kind of everyone almost gets equal screen time. Like, yeah, those three are a bit more important to like the overall story, but like, there's so many other characters with just like so many complex storylines and whatnot, and it's amazing. I was really blown away by this movie. The basic premise is that Robert Redford escaped from jail and he's on his way back home, and everyone else in town is just kind of freaking out about that idea. Jane Fonda plays his wife, who hasn't been faithful to him while he was in prison. And then Marlon Brando plays the town sheriff. I really liked his character because he's essentially Andy Griffith, like that morality, but he's not put in Mayberry, he's put in a real town with really flawed people. So he's just kind of beat down by just how awful people can be. And he's at like the end of his ropes because he has a great moral compass, but like people are just terrible. So he is sad. Jane Fonda was also great. She was just so fierce and powerful. She had such a presence. She really just like took over the scene whenever she was there. And I loved how complex her character was. It was really fascinating. And then Robert Redford isn't actually in a ton of the movie. He's talked about a lot, and he has some good scenes at the end, but he's not in a lot of it. But I still loved his performance here. A lot of what I loved about this movie is just the complexity of it, because no one's really a one-dimensional character. Like, there's multiple adulteries going on, and the movie's also just about like small town gossip and sticking your nose in places where it doesn't belong. And it's also about racism, which was so crazy. Like, that was one of my favorite scenes, was when Marlon Brando has to arrest this black man because there were three drunk white dudes who were just gonna kill him just because they could. And then Marlon Brando's at his office talking to his wife about how he's like, I just arrested a man who did literally nothing wrong just to save his life. How messed up is that? And I'm like, this is crazy. This is 1966, and you're calling racist bad. That's great. I love this so much. And like the racism that we see is so, it's so maddening and absurd, but like definitely true to life. And it's just, I'm so impressed with the movie for taking such a firm stance on racism being bad. I can also really connect to how they portrayed that small town gossip just like getting out of hand and just ruining people's lives just because people don't have anything better to do. Like, at the end of the film, I'm not gonna say exactly what happens, but it's the middle of the night and like the entire town is at the jailhouse. And it's like, why are all you people out here? Do you guys not have lives? It's Saturday night. What are you doing? And it's like, yeah, no, they don't have lives, and they just want to, hate a person for no real reason, just judge this person before we even know for sure if he did the horrible thing that everyone thinks he did. And it's also about like class warfare, and that's crazy. And just like people's perception of you. Like, I love how there's a whole part with Marlon Brando's character, how everyone thinks that he can get bribed off by this really rich guy in town. And he's like, I've done nothing to deserve this rumor about me, but yet it's prevalent no matter wherever I go, and I hate this. It's such a good story. I love this movie so much. I will say though, it did take me a little bit to get into, and part of that has to do with the fact that there are just so many women characters in this who look exactly alike. They're just beautiful blonde women. And I'm like, wait, who's this woman? Wait, who's sleeping with who now? I can't keep this all straight. But then like once I started thinking about it, I'm like, that's a great problem to have, because there are so many women characters who are actual characters. They're not just a love interest. They're like, they have their own problems and their own issues, and it's a full story. And that's great. So yeah, I totally, completely recommend this movie. This was great. I connected with it so much. I think you will too. It really holds up. It's just a great movie it's just a great movie that's really powerful. Next up is All the President's Men. This is a 1966 movie starring Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. It's based on a true story, and it's about two of the journalists who uncovered a lot of the Watergate scandal. And it's literally just following them as they're uncovering the Watergate scandal. This movie was really interesting because I definitely found it hard to follow just because there are so many names and so many jobs. And it's like, okay, what does this mean? What does this person do? How is that bad? What is going on there? But at the same time, I was just so engrossed the entire time. They did such a good job of emotionally telling the story. Even though I couldn't keep all the names straight and stuff, I could tell. I was like, oh, this is going well. Oh, that's gonna kind of blow up in their face. Oh, this is gonna be kind of tricky and stuff. And I was just really impressed with everything. It was really cool. And also I learned a bit of stuff too, because I definitely don't have a deep knowledge of Watergate and that whole thing. But I had the impression that it kind of exploded pretty fast, and it was known pretty quickly that Nixon was involved with the Watergate thing. But no, that's not the case. It was really a drawn out process that took a ton of digging. And it's just, if someone gave up in there, we never would have known, and this country could be so dramatically different. So it's so cool to see just someone's passion legit helping this country. That's such a cool thing. And then in much the same way that Frost Nixon was really cathartic, it was so cathartic here to see it uncovered that the president did something really, really bad, and there's lots of proof of it, and then we did something with all that proof, and it was a good outcome. It just would be so nice if that was a thing that happened in modern times. Cough, cough, insurrection, cough, cough. So yeah, I also really recommend this one. It's really, really solid, especially if you're into that era of America, because this was made only, I think, 4 years after the Watergate scandal even happened. So it's how people of the time interpreted that event, and I dig that. That's really cool. And lastly is Out of Africa. This is a 1985 movie starring Meryl Streep doing such a weird accent. I don't know what that was. This was actually the Best Picture winner in 1986, and I have no idea how that happened because I did not care for this movie. Basic premise is Meryl Streep is a Danish woman who gets sick of being a rich Danish woman and wants to go make a farm in Africa. It's loosely based on a real story, and it takes place at the turn of the last century. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about this movie. It's definitely way overly sappy. This coming from a guy who loves a good love story, it is way too much. Meryl Streep's accent just completely threw me off the entire movie. I just watched Another Round, which is a movie from Denmark with people speaking Danish the entire time. In my opinion, Meryl Streep sounds nothing like any of the real people from that movie. So I don't know. Supposedly she based her accent off of someone famous from there, but also this movie's super bloated. It's over 2 hours and 40 minutes, I believe. And just this story does not need to be an epic length. This could easily be a 90-minute thing, and that would be way better. And then Robert Redford is barely in this movie. Every time he's in it, every time he pops up, it improves everything immensely. He brings so much charm and charisma to the screen, but he is not in a lot of this movie. It mostly just focuses on Meryl Streep. Side note, this is definitely peak Robert Redford attractiveness. He's 50 in this movie, but dude is good looking. I would honestly rank him. I would go Robert Redford 50, Robert Redford 30, Robert Redford 40. I don't know why he kind of dipped down at 40, but he definitely peaked at 50 when his attractiveness. So yeah, I did not care for this movie. It was too long, weirdly acted, and super sappy. It may have been a bit racist. Alrighty, now for Robert Redford's rankings. First up is The Chase. It's actually sitting at number 6 in the really liked category. I crazy loved it. It was just, it was so good. The action was great. The story was great. The characters were great. It was an excellent story told so well. You really should watch it. And then next up is All the President's Men, also in the really liked category, but it's down to number 25. It's kind of near the bottom of the really liked category, but it's still great. And then bringing up the rear, rightfully so, is Out of Africa, sitting at number 63 in the meh category. And that is out of a total of 87 movies so far this year.